May I first say what a pleasure it is to be in your company. I'm seeing some friends from a while back, from my earliest days connected with CCAR. And I'm also seeing some new faces to me. It's a real pleasure to be here with you this morning. And it's an honor to be delivering a webinar in the name of Art Woodward. I knew Art when he was still active at CCAR, and he's one of those giants whose voice reverberates in my mind. I think of him very often indeed, and especially when I'm grappling with ethical issues in our field or ethical challenges. They say,
are you on the call?
They say that that we all die not once but twice. We die when our physical bodies give it up, but we don't actually die until the very last time that our name passes anybody's lips. And on that basis, I think we can agree that Art Woodward has a lot of space and time left to him and to his memory. Thank you for being here, and I hope that you find the next hour together to be helpful to you in your practices as trainers and as facilitators. This is a formal presentation, and I will move through it. You will be asked to do some personal reflection work in your own notebooks. Do please feel free to take copious notes. The webinar will be archived and can be retrieved at any time. At some point, I'll ask Katrina to tell us a little bit about how that's going to work. But in the meantime, let's just breathe into our beautiful morning, the last Wednesday of the week, and bring ourselves into presence with each other. What a happy occasion it is always to be in the presence of this community, our community. So, tech permitting, I'm going to share my screen and get started. This is always a moment of real, not to put too fine a tooth in it, anxiety for me. Been working Zoom for 4 years, and I never, ever believe that my presentations are going to load as they should. But there it is, what we're looking at this morning: multiple relationships, the business of facilitation. So, public service announcement. This webinar, Our Time Together, is approved by the New York Certification Board for 1 hour continuing education credit for all of the NYCB certifications. So if that's of value to you, you are earning it by your presence, your attendance here this morning. Katrina Massey will have the details of that. I'm very grateful to Katrina for hosting us this morning. And there's her email for any follow-up contact, any questions that you have about this particular feature of our work together this morning. Next up is a special welcome for you folks. This webinar has been designed for individuals who are recovery coach professional facilitators and or are members of the New York Certification Board Trainer Registry. That is for those of you who already have an established training or facilitation practice, or are in the early stages of establishing that practice, or maybe just are kind of interested. You're recovery coach professionals, you love the CCAR model, maybe you have a vocation to facilitate in your communities. You're very welcome, whoever you are. The material that I'm going to present today, however, arises very particularly from the CCAR experience with the RCPF program and my experience as program manager at the NYCB Trainer Registry. So our time together today is very much a co-production. You're very welcome, and I hope you find value in the next hour. Of course, we always start with working agreements, and I have a proposal for working agreements. I know that in this room, we have great minds. And according to this graphic, our great minds are at work. There's all those cogs churning. And that's all of us working together, great minds at work. But so often those great minds are obscured or hidden from each other by what else is in the room, the other tech that's in the room. Those phones, we all have a phone, and those phones all have cameras. I'm going to ask you folks to remove that tech barrier from your work this morning and to interact directly with the slides and to interact directly with my narrative. That is to say, remove the barrier so that we can all relax into being together, all great minds working together. It's a beautiful thing. That's the working agreement I want to offer for our time together. But of course, there's more to it. There's more to it than simply putting away the phones. We are going to want to have our notebooks, and I see several people already writing away. Our notebooks and pens, the original note takers, way before AI and Otter. I always like, as a best practice, to date my work so that when I come back and look at it, I can see, oh yeah, right, that's where I was at on that date. And now that it's 6 months hence or 6 years hence, I'm in a different place with this material, but it's interesting to revise it. There's, of course, more to the old-fashioned use of pen and paper in environments like this, and it's neatly captured by the University School of Education at Indiana University by this individual, Joel Wong, counseling psychology professionals professor. And I really like his quote published in the New York Times last year, where he summarizes how the act of writing slows down our thinking process and allows us to ponder more deliberately. That is, it gives us the time and the space to actively, proactively, if you like, engage with the material that's being presented and with how that material is landing with us. I think that's a tremendous value, and I'm really grateful to Professor Wong for this very neat summary. If we have this working agreement in place, if we can all be agreed that this is how we want to proceed, I'd like to start by offering a moment for reflection. Here is the big question always. In any situation, the very first thing we want to ask ourselves is, what am I trying to achieve? What am I trying to achieve? This question is itself a version of the great CCAR question. How can I help you with your recovery today? This is an agenda setting question. It's an agenda setting question for my projects, for my initiatives. It's also an agenda setting question when I think about big picture, like what about my career, for example? In my career, what am I trying to achieve? And the question is an invitation to each of us to be mindful of what it is we're doing in our lives, what it is we're doing in our careers, what it is we're about. What am I trying to achieve? If I have some kind of idea of what it is that I'm trying to achieve, it will be a very great deal easier for me to get to that outcome because my steps towards it will be plotted out for me, by me. So in a sense, we could say that what am I trying to achieve is a very empowering question. It puts me straight on the road to where I'm going. Not written in stone. Nothing that we do in our lives is written in stone, but it's a place to start. What am I trying to achieve? Now, at some point in each of our careers, we asked ourselves this question, and we came up with a response, whether it's immediate or longer term, or whether we will maybe leave it behind at some point in the future. But just for today, there's some point in our lives where the answer to the question, what am I trying to achieve, brought us into this room, brought us to a place where, doing a very great deal of work, we've ended up holding the designation of a recovery coach professional, a facilitator, and or we've ended up as members of the NYCB trainer registry. In either or both of these situations, at some point along the line, we identified for ourselves that part of what we wanted to achieve involved being a facilitator or being a trainer. And it's that part of our personal mission or our personal goal that I'm hoping that we will delve a little deeper into in our time together this morning. So to summarize, I want to say that for every broad stroke principle, such as I've just outlined, there are always fun facts and exceptions. And this morning, I want to acknowledge that for those of us who are trainers by vocation, and I've been training for a while, I've been around a few blocks. The truth of it is that most professionals in the adult learning field are what that field calls accidental trainers. So you might want to ask yourself, how does this idea land with you? Did you come into this field because this training field? Did you come into this training field because at some point in your lives, a supervisor or a manager handed you a training manual and said, here, read that in front of a group of participants? And you were off to the races. It's a well-trod path to becoming an RCPF and or a trainer registry member, is to begin your career as a trainer by a kind of accident. Now, of course, if that opportunity was offered to you at some point and you grabbed it, with enthusiasm and with passion, then of course you are wholeheartedly a member of the training profession. And it's so great to be in company and in community with you this morning. Let's drill down a little deeper into this, what am I trying to achieve question. Whether I'm an accidental trainer, whether I'm an RCPF, whether I'm a trainer registry member, let's drill down a little bit deeper into that question, what am I trying to achieve? And this is very definitely an opportunity for you and your great minds and your notebooks. Here are 5 equally valid, equally legitimate answers to the question, what am I trying to achieve? Let's take a moment, each of us, to answer for yourselves. I won't ask you to share, to answer for yourselves in the privacy of your own notebook. Which of these legitimate answers to the question, what am I trying to achieve, best captures your mission today, your training mission, or your mission as a trainer or as a facilitator, best captures that for today? And yes, this is a priority setting exercise. Yes, for yourselves, please just pick one. My absolute priority might be to help people recover from addiction or substance use disorder, or whatever we're calling it this morning.
I don't think.
My absolute priority might be that I want to teach people skills so that they can be certified and get a job. That's a perfectly legitimate priority, something that you might very much want to achieve in your training practice. Or I want to teach people how to be a recovery coach so that they can build their own coaching practice. And this is a conversation that Katrina Massey is leading at the IARCP, the International Association for Recovery Coach Professionals, of which I'm also a member. We're talking about recovery coaches and building their own coaching practice. Or it might be your priority today to earn your living in a way that stretches your talents and skills in a classroom, in a facilitation group. Or you might be motivated by wanting to build the recovery coaching profession itself so that people can work with the CCAR model because you believe so deeply in its value and its efficacy. Each of you will have your own personal priority from this list. I'm asking you to identify for yourselves which number it is and write it down in your notebooks. And let's take a moment to do this. When you've made your choice, it would be helpful for me to see maybe some digital hands raised, just to give me a sense that we're good to move on. And thank you, folks. Okay. I think we're ready to run with this, the priority that you've set yourself, your mission today, your goal today, your what drives you in this role, in the role of a trainer, in the role of a facilitator. So while you've got your pens in hand, and while you've got those notebooks open, let's do another brainstorm. Let's take a look at, what will I need? If that's my goal, what will I need to support that? What am I going to have in place to get from where I am to implementing or achieving my goal or my priority. What are all the things I'm going to need? Am I going to need a training room? Am I going to need a coffee machine? Am I going to need, as Donna Pagan, who's with us this morning, memorably told a class of hers that I took 10 years ago, Donna. Donna memorably said, you know, you're going to have a training practice, if you're going to have a coaching practice, if you're going to do that in real life, because we weren't on Zoom at the time, she said, you're going to need to have toilet paper. So there's a whole world of stuff we need to help support our goal, achieving our goal. So don't think about this too deeply. Just right away, what will I need to support my goal? And I'm going to suggest that among the elements that you're going to need to support your goal are all these things. You're going to need resources. You're definitely going to need some income. Those bills don't pay themselves. You might want to have credentials, your own, or credentials to offer your participants. You'll certainly want some materials. You might need to do some marketing. You might need some technological support. Some folks these days exclusively train on Zoom, for example. Well, Zoom probably doesn't come free either. You'll need to keep records. You might need a premises, or you might need that Zoom room. You'll certainly need participants. Can't have a training or facilitating practice without participants. So this is a whole jumble of things you're going to need. Plus all of the other things that you've just identified in your own brainstorm, or that you remember from back in the day when you first established your training practices. There's a whole plethora of supports that you're going to need to support your goal, whatever it is that you identified as your priority or your driver today. So all of that plus what else? What else? Well, I'm going to suggest that if you have any kind of a business at all, or you are interacting meaningfully with members of the public, you are going to need liability insurance. Yikes. Liability insurance. This is beginning to sound awfully like this, that you are in business. You are in business to support your goal. You are in business to achieve that outcome that's driving you, that gets you up in the morning, that floats your boat, that is energy to you, that is food and drink to you. At its most formal, you may come to a point where it actually makes a lot of sense to build a formal business plan. And that's what that colorful graphic down on the bottom right-hand side of this slide is all about. Your mission statement, your company background, your product description, your marketing plan, your competitor analysis. Everybody has a competitor. Your SWOT analysis. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are your opportunities? What are your threats? Your operations, your financial planning. How am I going to be able to pay my bills? How am I going to be able to pay the rent? How am I going to be able to pay myself What's the timeline here? And all of that information in a formal business plan is going to wind up in an executive summary. And this is the document or the plan. Not unlike those recovery plans that we develop with our clients when we're coaching. This is the outline, this is the plan, these are the details of how your supports come together strategically so that you can achieve your goal, you can achieve your outcome. Mm. Ooh, 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 ooh. And now, in our heads, we've traveled a long distance from that fabulous moment when Michael Serrano or Katrina Massey or Stacey Charpentier or any of the fabulous folks at CCAR actually presented you with a recovery coach professional facilitator certificate authorizing you to deliver their training products. Seems like a long way from that exhilarating moment to looking at this admittedly very colorful outline of a business plan. Wow. Now, I'm not here as anybody's business mentor, and I'm not here to walk you through developing your own business plan. There are resources for that, and I will present some resources before we sign off this morning. What I want to do is I want to focus on some real specifics because I am in the weeds with these specifics on a daily basis. So I can maybe bring you some useful information. There's the whole question of your participants and their fees. Your participants is where your fees come from. There's the whole question of your training programs, your curricula. You know, what are you bringing to the market? And what advantage does taking a training with you have as opposed to taking a training with anybody else? What is your market advantage? These are some threads that are really significant when you're looking to build your training practice, not just build, but sustain it in an ever-changing market and in our world in a very dynamic field. Goalposts are expanding and shifting almost on a daily basis, or at least that's what Richard Buckman tells me. We come back to what is the core business question that you have to ask yourself. You know what you're trying to achieve, but how does that land? How does that land out in the big world? So the question is, who is my market? Who wants me? Who loves what I have to offer? It's a great question. Just because I'm the most fabulous bee's knees in the world, and you all are, we know this, you're RCPF, you're members of the NYCB Trainer Registry. You know, how good can it get? We know you're fabulous. We know your training practice is terrific, but really, who cares? Who is your market? And what does your market want? And this is the great question behind any business. You can have as fancy or as beautiful a business plan as that multicolored graphic down there in the bottom right-hand corner. But really, it comes down to very simply, who is my market and what does it want? And this is where we see the whole question of multiple relationships. The multiple relationships that you need to put in place simultaneously to have a training or a facilitation business or practice. Doesn't really matter what we call it. If you're delivering training or facilitation skills anywhere, you know, you're engaged in a business activity. And while that language, sort of turns the stomach of many of us who came up in the nonprofit world and, sort of who are idealists still, if we don't get a handle on how these relationships work and how we can make them work for us, we're not going to achieve our goals. We're not going to be able to implement our missions. So let's take a look at some of those relationships as they impact these key elements that I've highlighted on this brainstorm screen. Here they are separated out. 3 completely separate elements or relationships or areas that you have to focus on. Yes, they're related. You need the 3 of them in place. These are look to me like balls I have in the air in the course of managing my business. But they're completely separate. And I think if nothing else lands from our time together this morning, the idea that these 3 pieces are completely separate and that I have to engage with them on the basis that they are separate from each other. They may be complementary to my practice, essential to my practice, but they are separate from each other. So to begin, the question for me is, what is my product? I need an answer to that question before I can begin to engage with either a potential market or develop the additional value of my product. What is it? Be specific. People often ask me, sort of how do I set up a coaching business? And the first thing I always ask right back is, what are you trying to achieve in your coaching business? And what does coaching mean to you? What very specific kind of coaching will you be offering? What is your product? Be specific. Then the second question becomes the same old, who cares? You have a fabulous product, I know that. But do I want to buy it from you today? And if I don't want to buy it from you today, or maybe never, maybe your outreach needs to stretch more broadly beyond me. So that's a question about, sort of who is your market? And the second part of that question, and what does it want? What does my market want? Your market wants your product. You'll know that because they buy it from you. They register for your trainings. Deb Rhodes, who's on this in this Zoom room, for example, I'm not quite sure if her co-conspirator Ben Deeb is with us as well, developed a terrific product this year, for criminal justice supported recovery training, a very specific role training leading to certification in the role of a criminal justice supported peer. This is a marvelous training, and they offer it. They've offered it very successfully indeed in the community. It's very clearly a product that the market wants. They have additional market value that they bring to that product, which the market responds to ecstatically. This is what success looks like. And that is the fact that their training is, at the present time, the exclusive training available for the criminal justice supported recovery certification. That's added value to the training. It's added value that their market wants. So forgive me, Ben and Deb, for the shout out, but your success with this product really is a terrific example of what we're looking at here. Balancing a product that they wanted to create for their own reasons. I've no idea what floats their boat. You can ask them. But they wanted to create this product for their own reasons. They created it for a market with which they're very familiar, both personally and professionally. And they made sure that they were offering the added value of training towards a certification that is valued in the community, in the market, and in the workplace. So that's the kind of balancing that I have to think about my products. Sure, I'm developing a terrific training about something or other, but does anybody want it? Does anybody want it? So these are issues for your drawing board, core issues. And I focus in on them, I laser focus in on them this morning because of the particular attendance here today and because of the particular co-hosts. But let's go a little deeper into that. As a trainer, as a facilitator, your product is going to be all of those courses that you want to train, all of those courses that you're authorized to train. Your market will be those participants and fees that we saw on our brainstorming chart. And your market advantage, very specifically, is going to be whatever else on top of that product you can offer that your market very specifically wants. What do I mean? Let's see. The providers of your product as a trainer or a facilitator are the people who develop and publish training programs. They're called training vendors. And training vendors will have contractual relationships with you, whereby they authorize you to deliver their copyright material in your training practice. Now, in our field, which has been very laissez-faire, often those contracts are unspoken. They're not written down. And of course, we do say about contracts that aren't written down that they aren't worth the paper they're not written on. But the truth of it is that whether implicit or explicit, if I'm interested in delivering a product that was developed by somebody else, I have a contractual relationship with that intellectual property owner. And I must have that training vendor's authorization to deliver that product. Or I am committing a fraud on that developer. Fraud, I don't like the sound of that. That doesn't sound very ethical. Perpetrating a fraud doesn't sound to me like where I want to be in my practice at all. So you want to be very clear about the product that you've identified that you want to bring to market. You want to be very clear about who owns that product, who owns that intellectual product, that intellectual property. And you want to have a very clear and well understood by everybody relationship, business relationship, contractual relationship with that training vendor. That's the product that you'll bring to your market. And your market can be very varied. There's your direct clients and students, there's your participants, if that's whatever it is you call the people you're in a room with when you're delivering your product or facilitating your product. But there are others. Your market is also includes your hosts. For example, if you bring a training to an agency, that agency is your market. They're commissioning your work. Or maybe they're sponsoring it. Or maybe they're your employer. Everybody's situation is going to be individual and different. But the product that you bring to your market, whether it's an employer or whether it's a client you're out beating the streets to locate, the same principle holds in respect of your relationship with the training vendor. You must have that training vendor's authorization to you to bring that product to your market, whoever that market is. And the next piece of this is, of course, is there any added value, or is there any market advantage that you can also offer your market? What does it want? Yeah, it wants your training. Or yeah, it wants the training that you're authorized to deliver. Absolutely it does. Absolutely it does. And it wants you because you're terrific. But is there something else that your market wants? And in our field, increasingly and almost becoming exclusively, your market wants professional credentialing. Your market wants to end up with a certification that's useful to it, that's useful to individuals for finding jobs, that's useful for whatever reasons. And that's where the third piece of this triangle, this third ball that you have in the air, this third separate entity comes into play. You're going to have to form relationships with credentialing providers. Who are they? For some credentials, it will be a state agency like OASIS. For other credentials, it will be a certification board like the New York Certification Board. For social work credit, it might be some institution like the Department of Education, again, in New York State. These are all separate organizations, separate relationships. You have to have one-on-one relationships with them. And they are going to dictate the terms of those relationships. And if you don't have an explicit relationship, you're not going to be able to deliver this additional value. You're not going to be able to deliver this market advantage that your market wants and that you absolutely need to be able to deliver in order to stay competitive. That's a lot of relationships. That's a lot of commitment. That's a lot of work. Bottom line here, WORK, a four-letter word. Very specifically in this model, most of us work with CCAR. CCAR is the preeminent, that used to be a favorite word of Graydon Carter's when he was editing Vanity Fair, preeminent. CCAR is the preeminent training vendor in our field. Terrific portfolio of trainings. CCAR gets to decide whether you have their permission to deliver those trainings or not. You need their permission. You need an explicit contractual relationship with CCAR. For CCAR, that means at a minimum, you need to be RCPF. And they set the terms of RCPF. It also means you have to use Protrax, Grown, and anything else CCAR says. You have to renew your RCP, you have to renew your RCPF, you have to pay for that. You have to do whatever CCAR requires of you to have their permission, their authorization to deliver their products. And you have the exact same relationship, explicitly or implicitly, with any other training vendor. In New York State, for example, OASIS provides original trainings in our field. But boy, they take their pint of blood for it. Their contractual relationship with you requires that you deliver 3 completely free trainings as the price of their authorization to you to deliver their material. Fair enough. You decide whether those prices, what CCAR wants, what OASIS wants, what anybody else wants, you get to decide in your practice for yourself. Are you good with that or not? What is your product? For added value over here on the New York State side, the New York Certification Board, which is the exclusive provider of peer recovery certifications in New York State and beyond, we are, as a credentialing provider, we have our requirements too. You are contractually engaged with NYCB according to whatever standards we establish as appropriate for our relationship. That means that at a minimum, you will be a member of the NYCB trainer registry. That's a completely separate requirement from RCPF, completely separate. We're on separate sides of this slide to show the separation between these two organizations, separate relationships. The New York Certification Board, in approving your training products as appropriate for training towards certification, NYCB will require you to show that you have authorization, formal authorization to deliver whatever products you want us to approve. So that's going to mean, if you're delivering CCAR products, that's going to mean we need to see that you have CCAR authorization. We need to see your CCAR RCPF designation. If you're training products that are owned by Teresa Knorr, for example, who's also on this call, you will need to submit Teresa Knorr's authorization, perhaps her TOT certificate, to us, to the NYCB, in order to confirm that you have Teresa's authorization to be a Tai Chi trainer, for example. So these are separate balls, separate relationships. The good news is that very few of us whom you have to develop relationships with, very few of us bite. We're kind of nice. We're kind of easy to interact with. And we do want you to succeed. We don't know what your goal is. We don't know what your mission is. But we want you to succeed. And that's my way of introducing the absolutely core relationships that you are going to want to establish with these two people or with our equivalents wherever you're based. Michael Serrano at CCAR is the representative of CCAR as a training vendor. He manages it very well, the RCPF program. If you want to deliver CCAR products in your practice, get with Michael Serrano. That's his email address. If you want to offer training in support of New York Certification Board certifications, and several of our certifications have national applicability, you will want to get with me. I'm the program manager at the New York Certification Board Trainer Registry. These are core relationships you will want to establish. Michael and I are lovely people, really. I mean, you can see from his photograph and that nice smile on his face that he's a warm and inviting person. I look a bit more dour, but then I'm an Irish woman. What do you expect? If it isn't raining this minute, it'll be raining in half an hour. That's our philosophy in life. But I don't bite either. There are other resources to help you navigate the big picture that I've presented in outline only this morning. I'm thinking particularly of those pieces of your business plan, whether you write a formal business plan now or whether you're simply gathering information, doing some calculations, taking a look at the details of your business. You will get a lot of help from these two organizations. The Small Business Administration. A small business is a business of one or more. The Small Business Administration does have a whole raft of funding initiatives, including, of course, the Women and Minority-Owned Business programs. get with SBA and spend some time investigating their website. For even more hands-on, the SCORE offers mentors, business mentors, experienced executives, now retired, volunteering their expertise to support you in building your business and responding to your questions about your business that are way beyond my expertise, but I can raise them for you in a forum such as this. These are two core resources in the field for you, and I do suggest that you check them out. The fabulous thing is that both of these organizations are taxpayer supported. That is, you are already paying for these services. So the actual service at point of service delivery is free to you. So you can have endless mentoring, professional mentoring at SCORE to help you build your business, to get your head around these concepts that I've been introducing this morning, to see where they relate to your business. It's all free. What could be better? So in closing, I'd just like to bring together the strands of what I've been presenting this morning. Starting off always with the great question, what am I trying to achieve? In my training business, what is my product? Who is my market? And what value, what added value do I bring? And that's the basis on which you will identify those relationships that you need to establish right here, right now, in order to deliver what your mission in the big bad world. You've made a lot of notes this morning in your notebook. I see folks writing away. And you're thinking about, if you haven't already written your first business plan, you're thinking about all of the elements that go into a business plan to establish what you're doing on a solid footing and to support you in achieving your goal, your mission, your priority today. So that's what I've got as an overview to the multiple relationships that you will need to establish in your business, the business of facilitation. I hope it's useful for you. I hope you have some takeaways here. And I look forward to seeing you in my inbox as you reach out to the New York Certification Board. So I have, here's how I end show. Great, okay. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to, don't save. Oh my goodness, there we are. Screen sharing magically stopped. Who knew? I've only been doing this for 4 years. Who knew? So you may have some immediate questions. We have a little bit of time until we close out at 11. If you have some immediate questions, may I ask you to put them in the chat box? That's the easiest way of working with them so that everybody knows what we're addressing. Or if you have an act hunger, as we say in psychodrama, if you have an act hunger to jump in popcorn style with a question, go for it.
Ruth, I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. Becoming an MWBE is relatively easy. However, one of the things you will need is a business bank account. So when you talk about building your business, we have to get out of the mindset of clients are going to be assigned to us, participants are going to be assigned to us. and this is where the marketing comes in, like you really have to outreach people. If you are a sole proprietor doing business as an LLC, I can tell you one of my major shifts was when I worked for nonprofits, my clients were always assigned to me. And then when I started my business, I was like, oh my God, how do I get a client? I got a product, it has value, but how do I now get the clientele? And I like the fact that you mentioned, because I contract with nonprofits and I contract with governmental agencies. But the only way I was able to contract with both was by becoming a minority woman-owned business enterprise for both the state and the city. It opened up a lot of doors for me. So I wanted to add that to what you were saying.
Terrific. Thanks so much, Nyla. And I see folks putting their own resources in the chat box. Let's add them to our personal brainstorm sheet, what we need to support our business. Because this is great information from folks who are out there doing it. With regard to the insurance question, this is a litigation happy culture. And that's not news. Everybody knows that. And folks will, for whatever reason, either be complaining about you or actively trying to sue you. Even if you succeed in a legal case, you may risk all of your personal assets. You need to be protected even if you never need that protection. And that's where insurance comes in. And for a full discussion of insurance, talk first to your SCORE mentor, but also there are a number of trade associations for people in counseling, in facilitation. I'm a member of a terrific organization called the Mid-Atlantic Facilitation Network, for example, who offer expert advice on aspects of your business, such as where to go for good rates on insurance. So check it out, check it out, check it out. And there we are with Ginger, good old Ginger Ross, who will be seeing me in her inbox before the week is out. Ginger is adding some great observations in the chat box. AJ, you had a hand up. Jump in while we're still broadcasting. AJ, unmute, please. Can't hear you, AJ. Oh, the ears are coming out. I'm afraid I can't hear AJ. While you're figuring out the tech, AJ, is there anybody else who wants to jump in for a moment?
Ruth.
Yes.
Hi, good morning. So I just wanted to say that, so thank you for this. This was really great. I've learned probably the hard way, there's a difference between having a business and being a trainer. And so a lot of us are not business owners. We didn't go to business school. And so just learning the ins and outs of a business is what I wanted to say is, and I think I just told you, you know, we might need lawyers, you know, we need a business lawyer, business mentors, and we don't know what we don't know, right? There's a lot of things that I definitely don't know. I'm a social worker by trade. There's a lot of things about business that I didn't know. Even though I have now a master's in executive business, there's a lot of things that I still don't know and learning. So, so I just wanted to say thank you for this. I think that we need more of this and more resources and Yeah, I just wanted to share that. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Connie. It's 11 a.m. on my ever right screen. So I'm sure Katrina wants to close us out. There are a significant number of resources posted in the chat box. I'm going to ask Katrina if she would be so kind as to collate them and to distribute them to our attendants this morning. Great work, everybody. We don't want to lose it. So Katrina, if I could pass it to you to close us out, and just thank you all for being here this morning. You have my email address, you know where to chase me up.